The alarm screamed through the command center of Earth's biggest space station. Red lights flashed everywhere. Commander Jake Morrison stood in front of the main screen, watching enemy ships fill the dark space like angry wasps. "Sir, we have over 200 alien ships coming at us," said Lieutenant Ben Hayes, his voice shaking a little. "They're moving fast." Jake looked at the screen with calm eyes. He had been fighting these purple-skinned aliens called the Kethvar for 15 years. Everyone knew his name. Soldiers told stories about him around campfires. Mothers named their babies after him. Even the aliens feared him. "How many ships do we have?" Jake asked. "Only 60, sir. But they're all ready to fight." Jake smiled. He had won battles with worse odds before. "Tell all ships to follow my lead. We're going to show these aliens what humans can do." The battle started with a bright flash of laser fire. Jake's ship moved between the enemy vessels like a dancer. He knew exactly where to hit them. His years of fighting had taught him all their weak spots. "Target their engine sections," Jake ordered through his radio. "Don't waste shots on their armor." One by one, alien ships exploded in balls of fire. Jake's tactical mind worked like a computer. He could see the whole battle in his head. He knew where every ship would move next. But the aliens had a surprise this time. Their biggest ship fired a strange green beam at Jake's vessel. The beam passed through their shields like they were made of paper. "What was that?" shouted his co-pilot, Captain Lisa Brown. Jake felt something wrong immediately. His skin started to burn. His head felt dizzy. "Get us out of here," he said, but his voice came out weak. The green beam was a new weapon. It was designed to kill humans slowly from the inside. Jake's body started to change right away. His muscles began to hurt. His strong hands shook. But Jake didn't give up. Even as the alien poison spread through his body, he kept fighting. He destroyed 12 more enemy ships before his own ship had to retreat. "We won," Lisa said, looking at the remaining alien ships flying away. "But sir, you don't look good." Jake tried to stand up, but his legs were too weak. The man who could once carry 2 soldiers to safety now couldn't even hold a coffee cup without dropping it. The doctors on Earth worked on Jake for months. They tried every medicine they knew. Nothing worked. The alien weapon was too clever. It was made to destroy human DNA piece by piece. "I'm sorry, Commander," said Dr. Mary White, the best scientist on Earth. "Your body is breaking down. We can't stop it." Jake looked at his hands. They were thin now, like an old man's hands. His muscles were gone. His face was pale. "How long do I have?" "Maybe 6 months. Maybe less." Jake closed his eyes. He had fought 1,000 battles, but he couldn't fight this. The greatest warrior in human history was dying, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. But Dr. White had one more idea. "There is something we could try," she said quietly. "It's never been done before. It's very dangerous. Tell me. We could move your mind into a new body, a cloned body, but it would mean leaving your old body behind forever." Jake thought about this. He would lose his strong arms, his tall frame, his deep voice. Everything that made him look like the famous Commander Morrison would be gone. But he would still be alive to fight for humanity. "Do it," he said. The cloning process took 3 weeks. Scientists had to grow a new body from human DNA. But there was a problem. The only DNA that worked with Jake's mind belonged to a 16-year-old girl from New York named Amy Clark. Amy had volunteered for the program after her parents died in an alien attack. She wanted to help save humanity any way she could. She didn't know her body would be used to save the most famous soldier alive. The day of the transfer came. Jake lay on a metal table with wires attached to his head. The machine would copy his mind and put it into Amy's cloned body. "Are you ready, Commander?" asked Dr. White. Jake nodded. "Let's do this." The machine hummed to life. Jake felt his mind being pulled apart and put back together. Colors flashed behind his eyes. He heard sounds that didn't exist. Time moved strangely. Then everything went black. Jake woke up in a white room. The first thing he noticed was that the ceiling looked very far away. Then he tried to sit up and realized something was very wrong. His voice was high and soft when he spoke. "What happened to me?" Dr. White stood beside the bed, smiling sadly. "The transfer worked, Commander. You're alive." Jake looked down at his new body. Small hands, thin arms, long blonde hair fell across his face. He was wearing a hospital gown that was too big for his tiny frame. "This is Amy's body?" he asked. "Yes, you're now physically identical to a 16-year-old girl. But your mind, your memories, your tactical skills, they're all still there." Jake tried to stand up. His new legs wobbled like a baby deer. He was maybe 5 feet tall now. His hands could barely grip the bed rail. "I can't fight like this," he whispered. "No," Dr. White agreed. "But you're alive. And your mind is the most valuable weapon humanity has." Jake looked in a mirror across the room. A pretty teenage girl looked back at him. Blue eyes, small nose, soft features. She looked like she should be in school, not on a battlefield. "What happens now?" Jake asked. "Now you have to learn to live as Amy Clark. We've created a false identity for you. You'll attend high school in New Athens Colony. No one can know who you really are." Jake laughed, but it sounded strange in his new voice. "The most feared commander in the galaxy is going to high school? It's the only way to keep you safe while we figure out our next move against the aliens." As Jake looked at his reflection, he wondered if saving his mind was worth losing everything else. He had been humanity's greatest weapon. Now he was just a weak girl who couldn't even open a jar without help. But deep inside, the fire that made him a legend still burned. The body had changed, but the warrior's spirit remained the same. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in front of Roosevelt High School in New Athens Colony. The building looked huge to his new eyes. Students walked past him, laughing and talking about normal teenage things. They had no idea that the most famous military commander in human history was standing among them. "Amy Clark, report to the principal's office," came a voice over the school speakers. Jake walked slowly through the hallways. Everything felt wrong. His new body moved differently. His center of balance was all messed up. He kept bumping into lockers because he couldn't judge distances properly. Principal Helen Ross was a kind woman with gray hair and a warm smile. "Welcome to Roosevelt High, Amy. I know this must be difficult for you." Jake nodded. The government had told everyone that Amy was a war orphan who needed a fresh start. They said her parents died in an alien attack and she had trauma. It was partly true. "Your counselor, Mr. Peter Grant, will help you adjust," Principal Ross continued. "And don't worry about catching up with your classes. We understand you've been through a lot." Classes. Jake almost laughed. He had commanded fleets of warships. He had planned battles across entire star systems. Now he had to learn algebra and write essays about books. His first class was English literature. Jake sat in the back row, trying to make himself as small as possible, which wasn't hard in his new body. "Today we're discussing courage in literature," said Mrs. Carol Stone, the teacher. "Can anyone give me an example of true courage?" A boy named Ryan Hughes raised his hand. "Like soldiers who fight aliens? My dad says Commander Morrison is the bravest man alive." Jake's heart jumped. These kids were talking about him. About his old self. "That's a good point, Ryan," Mrs. Stone said. "Physical courage is important. But what about moral courage? The courage to do what's right even when it's hard?" A girl with red hair named Katie Bell spoke up. "I think it takes courage to start over when everything goes wrong, like when you lose everything but keep trying." Jake looked at Katie with new interest. She understood something that most adults didn't. The next class was physical education. This was Jake's worst nightmare. He had to change into gym clothes in front of other girls. His new body felt alien to him. Everything was different, smaller, weaker, softer. Coach Jim Parker made them run laps around the gym. Jake used to run 5 miles every morning in full combat gear. Now he was out of breath after one lap. The other girls passed him easily. "Come on, Amy," Katie called out, running beside him. "You can do it." Jake wanted to tell her that he once carried 2 wounded soldiers 3 miles through enemy fire. Instead, he just nodded and kept running. At lunch, Jake sat alone in the cafeteria. He watched the other students talking about their problems. Homework, dating, video games. Their biggest worry was passing a test or asking someone to a dance. Meanwhile, Jake knew that alien fleets were gathering at the edge of human space. He had spent 15 years studying their attack patterns. He could see the signs that another invasion was coming. But nobody would believe a 16-year-old girl. A group of students sat down at his table. Katie was there, along with Ryan and a quiet boy named Marcus Webb who always carried a laptop. "You look sad," Katie said. "Are you thinking about your family?" Jake nodded. It was easier than explaining the truth. "My older brother died fighting aliens last year," Ryan said quietly. "Sometimes I watch the news and wonder if we're really winning this war." Jake almost spoke up. He wanted to tell Ryan about strategy and tactics, about how the war was really going, but he caught himself just in time. "The news says we have great leaders," Katie said. "Like that Commander Morrison guy. They say he never lost a battle. I heard he's sick," Marcus added, looking up from his computer. "Some kind of alien poison. Nobody talks about it, but my dad works at the military hospital. He says Morrison hasn't been seen in months." Jake's hands tightened into fists. These kids were worried about him, about the old him. They didn't know he was sitting right there with them. After school, Jake walked home to his small apartment. The government had given him a place to live and a fake identity. Amy Clark was supposed to be a normal teenager. He turned on the news. The reporter was talking about another defeat. The Iron Wolves, his old unit, had lost a major battle against the aliens. 12 good soldiers were dead. Jake threw the remote control across the room. It broke against the wall. In his old body, that remote would have shattered into pieces. Now it just bounced off and fell to the floor. He looked at his reflection in the black TV screen. A small, angry girl looked back at him. Her face was red. With frustration, her hands were shaking. "This is impossible," Jake said to his reflection. "I can't live like this." But what choice did he have? His old body was gone. This was his life now. The next day at school was worse. During history class, the teacher talked about famous military battles. Other students asked questions about tactics and strategy. Jake knew all the answers, but he couldn't speak up without raising suspicions. In gym class, they played basketball. Jake used to be 6 feet tall with long arms and quick reflexes. Now he could barely reach the basket. The ball felt heavy in his small hands. "Don't worry, Amy," Katie said after Jake missed his 10th shot. "Sports aren't for everyone." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in his small bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind was full of battle plans and tactical scenarios. But his body was that of a weak teenage girl. He got up and tried to do push-ups. He managed 3 before his arms gave out. He used to do 100 without breaking a sweat. Jake sat on the floor of his apartment and cried. Not because he was sad, but because he was angry. The greatest military mind in human history was trapped in a body that couldn't fight a paper bag. But as he sat there in the dark, Jake began to think. Maybe physical strength wasn't the only way to fight. Maybe there were other kinds of battles he could win. The aliens thought Commander Morrison was gone. They thought humanity's greatest weapon was finished. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 2 months into the school year, everything changed. It was the night of the Harvest Festival, New Athens colony's biggest celebration. The whole town gathered in the Central Park. Families brought picnic blankets. Kids ran around with glowing toys. Nobody expected what happened next. Jake was sitting alone on a bench watching the fireworks. He felt out of place among all the happy families. That's when he saw them. Dark shapes moving through the trees at the edge of the park. His military training kicked in immediately. Those weren't people. The way they moved was wrong. Too smooth. Too quiet. Jake's heart started beating faster. Then the screaming started. 6 alien soldiers burst from the tree line. They were Kethvar scouts. Purple-skinned creatures with 4 arms and razor-sharp claws. They carried energy weapons that could cut a person in half. People ran everywhere. Parents grabbed their children. Teenagers scattered like scared rabbits. But Jake didn't run. He couldn't. His tactical mind was already working. "Everyone get behind the food stands," Jake shouted, but his high voice got lost in the panic. One of the aliens raised its weapon toward a family with small children. Jake moved without thinking. He grabbed a metal folding chair and threw it as hard as he could. The chair hit the alien in the head, making it stumble. The alien turned toward Jake, its black eyes full of anger. It spoke in its clicking language, probably wondering why a small human girl dared to attack it. Jake rolled behind a picnic table just as the alien fired. The energy beam missed him by inches, setting a tree on fire behind him. "Amy!" Katie Bell was hiding behind a cotton candy stand with Ryan Hughes and Marcus Webb. "Get over here." But Jake wasn't running anymore. He was hunting. 15 years of combat experience didn't disappear just because his body changed. He knew how these aliens thought. He knew their weaknesses. Jake crawled under the tables, moving from shadow to shadow. The aliens were spreading out, trying to catch fleeing civilians. That was their mistake. They were thinking like predators, not soldiers. He found what he was looking for near the game booths, a propane tank for the hot dog grill. Jake unscrewed the valve with shaking hands. His new body was weak, but his mind was sharp. The nearest alien was standing near the fountain, scanning for targets. Jake rolled the propane tank toward it, then picked up a flare from the emergency kit and threw it after the tank. The explosion lit up the whole park. The alien disappeared in a ball of fire. "Holy shit!" Ryan yelled from his hiding spot. "Amy just killed an alien." But Jake wasn't done. 5 more aliens were still hunting civilians. He needed better weapons. The security office had riot gear, batons, pepper spray, maybe even a stun gun. Jake ran toward the building, staying low. His new body was small and fast, harder for the aliens to spot. 2 of the creatures were chasing a group of teenagers near the playground. Inside the security office, Jake found exactly what he needed: riot gear, chemical sprays, and, jackpot, a military-grade taser that could drop a charging bull. He also found something else: a radio tuned to the colony's emergency frequency. "This is Amy Clark at the park," Jake said into the radio, trying to make his voice sound older. "We have Kethvar infiltrators, 6 hostiles, now 5. They're hunting civilians." "Who is this?" came the reply. "Identify yourself." "Just send backup," Jake shouted, then turned off the radio. Outside, the aliens had cornered a group of people near the duck pond. Jake studied their positions. 2 were watching the civilians. 2 more were searching the area. The last one was standing guard. Time for some real tactics. Jake used the chemical spray to create a smoke screen near the duck pond. In the confusion, he hit the first alien with the taser. The creature went down, twitching. The second alien spun around, looking for the attacker. But Jake was already moving, using the playground equipment for cover. He climbed up the monkey bars. His small size was finally an advantage. From above, Jake dropped down onto the alien's back. His weight wasn't much, but the surprise was enough. He wrapped his arms around the creature's neck and held on while it thrashed around. "Amy!" Marcus Webb appeared with a baseball bat. He swung it at the alien's legs, making it fall down. Jake rolled away just in time. "How did you do that?" Marcus asked, staring at the unconscious alien. "Lucky shot," Jake lied, breathing hard. The remaining aliens heard the commotion and came running. But now Jake had help. Katie arrived with Ryan and several other students. They were scared but determined. "What do we do?" Katie asked. Jake looked at his classmates. These weren't soldiers. They were just kids, but they were brave kids who wanted to protect their families. "Ryan, you're fast. Run to the police station and tell them what's happening. Marcus, you're good with computers. Can you hack the park's sound system?" "I think so." "Why?" "I need to make some noise." "Katie, gather anyone who's not hurt. Get them to the community center. It's the strongest building here." His friends nodded and scattered. Jake smiled. It felt good to give orders again, even if his voice was high and squeaky. Marcus got the speakers working. Jake used them to shout instructions to the panicked crowd. His tactical training helped him organize the evacuation like a military operation. The last 3 aliens regrouped near the bandstand. They were getting smart, working together. But Jake was getting help too. Ryan came back with Officer Tony. "Clark, a security guard with a real gun. You're the one who called this in?" Officer Clark asked, looking surprised to see a teenage girl. "Yes, sir. 3 hostiles remaining. They're armed with energy weapons and close combat claws." Officer Clark stared at Jake. "You sound like you know what you're talking about." "I watch a lot of military movies," Jake said quickly. The final battle was short but intense. With proper backup and coordination, the remaining aliens didn't stand a chance. Officer Clark's gun and Jake's tactical advice made quick work of them. When it was over, Jake sat on the grass, exhausted. His classmates gathered around him, looking at him with new eyes. "Amy," Katie said slowly, "how did you know how to do all that?" Jake thought fast. "My dad was a soldier. He taught me some stuff before he died. It wasn't really a lie." Jake's father had been a soldier, just not Amy's father. "You saved everyone," Ryan said with respect. "Those aliens would have killed dozens of people." Jake nodded, but inside he was thinking about bigger things. If Keithvar scouts were this far into human territory, it meant a major attack was coming. And now that he'd shown his skills, he couldn't go back to being a normal student. His friends had seen what he could do. They trusted him. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what humanity needed. Not a famous commander, but a small group of determined teenagers who could do what adults couldn't. The legend of Commander Morrison was over, but Amy Clark's story was just beginning. 3 weeks after the festival attack, Jake's worst fears came true. The morning started like any other school day, but by noon, the sky was full of alien ships. The Kethvar Empire had launched their biggest attack ever. Hundreds of warships appeared above New Athens colony. The air raid sirens wailed across the city. People ran for underground shelters, but Jake knew the truth. Nowhere was safe from what was coming. "All students report to the basement immediately," Principal Ross announced over the school speakers. Her voice was trying to sound calm, but Jake could hear the fear. Jake didn't go to the basement. Instead, he ran to the school's communication room. He needed to contact the military, but all the official channels were jammed. The aliens were blocking every frequency. "Amy, what are you doing?" Katie found him working at the radio equipment. Marcus and Ryan were right behind her. "I have to warn them," Jake said, adjusting the radio dials. "The military doesn't understand how the aliens fight. They're going to get slaughtered." "Warn who?" Ryan asked. "And how do you know about alien tactics?" Jake looked at his friends. For months, he had been lying to them. But now, with death falling from the sky, the truth didn't seem so dangerous anymore. "My name isn't really Amy Clark," Jake said quietly. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison." His friends stared at him like he was crazy. "That's impossible," Marcus said. "Commander Morrison is a grown man, a war hero. You're just a 16-year-old girl I know." Jake found the right frequency and started speaking into the microphone. "This is Iron Wolf Prime calling any Iron Wolves units. Do you copy?" Static filled the room. Then, a voice came through the speaker. "Iron Wolf Prime? Sir, is that really you? This is Lieutenant Hayes from Iron Wolves Battalion." "Hayes, listen carefully. The Kethvar are using a 3-wave attack pattern. First the bombers, then ground troops, then their command ships. You need to hit the command ships during the second wave while they're distracted." "Sir, your voice sounds different. How do we know this is really you?" Jake smiled. "Remember the Battle of Titan Station? You asked me why I always eat chocolate before a fight. I told you it was because my grandmother said chocolate makes you brave. You laughed and said your grandmother told you the same thing about whiskey." There was a long pause. "Holy shit. It really is you, Commander. But how are you—" "Long story, Lieutenant. Right now we need to save this colony. Are you listening to my tactical advice or not?" "Yes, sir. Iron Wolf units follow Commander Morrison's orders." Jake spent the next hour coordinating the defense. of New Athens colony from a high school communication room. His friends watched in amazement as he spoke to military units across the planet. But the aliens had ground troops too. HFY soldiers were landing in the city hunting for civilians. The school's basement wouldn't protect anyone for long. "We need to evacuate everyone," Jake told his friends. "The community center has better defenses." "How are we supposed to move 300 students without getting killed?" Katie asked. Jake looked out the window. Alien ships were landing in the school parking lot. Very carefully. They organized the evacuation like a military operation. Jake divided the students into small groups. Each group would take a different route to the community center. Ryan and Katie led the first group. Marcus stayed with Jake to help coordinate. "There," Jake pointed to his computer screen. "Marcus, can you hack the city's traffic light system?" "Probably. Why?" "I need to control the timing. We're going to use the lights to signal the groups when to move." Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard. "Got it. The whole traffic system is under our control." Jake watched the alien patrol patterns through the school's security cameras. The creatures moved in predictable formations. Military training made them organized, but it also made them predictable. "Group 1, move now," Jake said into his radio. The traffic light at the corner turned green, the signal for Katie's group to run. One by one, Jake guided each group of students safely to the community center. His tactical mind turned the evacuation into a chess game, with alien patrols as the opposing pieces. But the biggest challenge was still coming. The HFY command ship was descending toward the city center. It was a massive vessel, bigger than 10 city blocks. Inside that ship was the HFY War Prime, the alien general commanding the invasion. Jake knew that if the War Prime established a command post, on the ground the battle would be lost. Earth's military was brave, but they were fighting a defensive war. The aliens had the advantage. "I have to stop that command ship," Jake told Marcus. "How?" "You're one person, and you're small and weak, I know." Jake stood up from the radio. "Equipment. But I'm also the only person on this planet who knows how to kill a War Prime." Jake grabbed a backpack and filled it with everything he could find. Chemical fire extinguishers, emergency flares, first aid supplies. Not much for fighting a war, but it would have to do. "I'm coming with you," Marcus said. "No. Stay here, and keep coordinating the evacuation. People are still trapped all over the city." Jake left the school through a back door. The city was a war zone. Buildings were on fire. Alien ships flew overhead, hunting for targets. In the distance, he could see the massive command ship settling down in the central plaza. Getting to the plaza meant crossing 12 blocks of enemy territory. Jake's small size helped him hide, but his weak body made every step exhausting. He had to rest every few blocks. Halfway there, Jake ran into a group of human soldiers. They were pinned down by alien fire, unable to move forward. "Hey kid," one of them shouted. "Get out of here, it's not safe." Jake crawled over to them. "I need to get to the command ship." "That's suicide. We've been trying to punch through their lines for 2 hours." Jake studied the alien positions. "You're attacking from the wrong angle. See that building? If you hit it with explosive charges, the debris will block their view. Then you can flank them from the left." The soldier stared at Jake. "How do you know about military tactics?" "I used to know a guy who knew about this stuff." Jake handed the soldier one of his flares. "Trust me. Hit the building, then go left." 20 minutes later, Jake was inside the command ship. The aliens had left it lightly guarded because they thought no human would be crazy enough to attack it. The War Prime was in the command center, a huge chamber filled with alien technology. It was 8 feet tall with skin like black metal. Its 4 arms ended in claws that could tear through steel. Jake stood in the doorway, a small human girl facing the most dangerous alien in the galaxy. "You are the human who has been interfering with our attack," the War Prime said in perfect English. "How disappointing. I expected their greatest tactical mind to be more impressive." "Sorry to disappoint you," Jake said, pulling the pins from 2 fire extinguishers. "But I'm full of surprises." The chemical foam filled the room, blinding the war prime. Jake used the confusion to plant explosive charges on the ship's power core. He had 60 seconds before they went off. The war prime found him before he could escape. Its massive claws wrapped around Jake's small body. Clever little human, but ultimately futile. Jake smiled. You know what your problem is? You think bigger is always better. But sometimes the smallest person in the room is the most dangerous. The explosion tore the command ship apart. Jake felt himself flying through the air, then everything went black. When he woke up, Jake was in a hospital bed. Katie, Marcus, and Ryan were sitting beside him. His body hurt everywhere, but he was alive. The aliens retreated, Katie said, with tears in her eyes. After their command ship exploded, they just gave up and left. Jake nodded weakly. War primes are like that. Kill the leader, and the whole army falls apart. The news says it was Commander Morrison who destroyed the ship, Ryan said. But we know the truth. Jake looked at his friends, the brave teenagers who had helped him save their world. Commander Morrison is dead, he said quietly. But Amy, Clark is just getting started. Outside the hospital window, Jake could see people rebuilding their city. Children played in the streets again. Families gathered for dinner. The war was far from over, but humanity had won an important victory. And somewhere in the galaxy, alien commanders were learning a new lesson about humans. Their greatest weapons weren't always the ones you expected.